Shalom, good evening. Now, we do know that every day we have to grind because without grind we can't go deep in this thing. That's why we have to always seek, we have to always work out, we have to always have the word within us, right? Because that spirit must not get away from us, right? Remember when disobedience happened, for example, when Saul disobeyed the Most High, the spirit. Remember when the most excuse me. Remember when Saul disobeyed the Most High, the spirit came out of Saul, right? And all was left was evil, or any kind of disobedience, right? That's why we have to keep grinding, keep working out, that we may have a solid ground within, right? Because the more you are rooted in this thing, the more it's hard for Satan to take away the word, right? That word is the law, right? You have to keep doing the law, practicing the law, and through that practices, you're going to get a more solid ground, right? And not only solid ground, but also the blessing of the Most High, right? Life, food, shelter, that's what we have to keep on seeking, right? Matthew 6:33. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you, right? Happiness, joy, but first we have to keep practicing the law, right? Because when you're grinding down within, that's the same as practicing something, right? When you're practicing something, it's trying to build something, and it's turning into this habit of keeping it, right? Because once you keep it, the fruits will then come out, right? The fruits of the spirits, right? Galatians, I believe is the book of Galatians chapter 5 verse 22. The fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, and goodness, and faith. Meekness, temperance, against such there is no law, right? That's why if you keep practicing this, those fruits will start to come out, right? And those fruits, there is no law against that, right? It's the same as seeking the Most High's kingdom. Where can we find the kingdom of the Most High? This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 16. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you, right? Therefore we must not defile ourselves with uncleanliness or disobedience, right? Because that's how we corrupt ourselves, right? But through keeping of the law and practicing it, we're when you're practicing something, you're grinding something below, and when something is grinded below, it's hard to pull it out, right? That's the same as habits, right? So when you have the habit of keeping the law, it's no longer a burden because you're already used to it. And when you're used to it, there's no law against that anymore, right? That's why daily meditate on this word also, because when you're getting reminded of the word, you become less fleshly, right? Because every day it's a spiritual warfare, right? I also suggest that you mix together the word, workout, and food, because when you're consuming the right, let me get that first. The stuff that you consume, whether it be maybe food or word or any kind of consumption, that's how you feel your spirit or your mind, right? But in Matthew 6:22, it reads, "The light of the body is the eye. Therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light," right? If you keep meditating on the word, when you keep meditating on the word, you will be filled with light or word. And you know how beneficial that will be, right? Because to be filled with light is to be filled with goodness, right? But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness, right? Darkness is emptiness, right? And we don't want to be filled with we don't want to be filled with such emptiness, right? We always want to be filled with the Spirit of the Most High, right? Which is the light and life, So keep practicing the law. You know, one one thing that we have to understand, that there are some fears in this world. One of those, fear of the Most High, but you have to have they call this the fear of the Most High, and not the fear of the world, right? That's why you have to reflect on it. Why do you have certain fears of the world when the only fear that you only must have is the fear of the Most High, right? That's why you have to keep grinding and keep reflecting daily from within, you know, because from within you will then understand certain aspects of life and ask yourself, why am I fearing this? Why am I fearing that? When the only thing that I need to fear is the Most High, right? First of all, what is that fear of the Lord, right? This is Sirach chapter 1 and verse 14. To fear the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and it was created with the faithful in the womb. What is wisdom? This is Sirach chapter 1 and verse 26. If thou desire wisdom, keep the commandments. If thou desire wisdom, keep the commandments, and the Lord shall give her unto thee. Therefore, the wisdom is the keeping of the commandments, right? That's the same thing also with the fear of the Lord, right? It's wise to fear authority, right? Because authority is used to bring order, right? And when you are under the subjection of order, you are, you have a sane or a proper mindset, right? Because you know how to eat, you know what to fear, you know what or which one exists or not, right? So you don't have to fear confrontation when the Most High is always with you, as long as you keep the commandments and live, right? Therefore, build that fear of the Most High and not fear of the world, right? Because the world, the world is, the wisdom of the world is senseless. I believe that's Psalms. This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 19. For the wisdom of the world is foolishness with God, for it is written, He that taketh the wise in their own craftiness. And again, the Lord knoweth the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. Therefore let no man glory in men, for all things are yours. Remember, why do we have to get intimidated by such opposition, right? When the only thing that we need to fear is the Most High, because the wisdom of the world is what? For the wisdom of the world is foolishness with God, right? So most of the world, the world's mind or knowledge or wisdom is foolishness, right? Or in other words, it doesn't make any sense, right? The only thing that makes sense is the word or the understanding of the Most High. It just happens so to fill the world with it, right? And we have to keep flickering that light, that we may be filled with what? With light, right? That's why keep doing these daily meditations, right? Keep reflecting, keep getting grounded, keep getting rooted in this thing, because there's so many stuff out there that may take you away from the truth, right? That's why I always keep meditating on it, because once you're grounded or rooted in it, you are in stable, good ground. This is Luke chapter 8 and verse 15. But that on the good ground are they which in an honest and good heart, having heard the word, keep it and bring forth with patience, right? What should we keep? The word. What is the word? That is keeping of the commandments, right? Let's go back to Sirach, I believe 1 and 14. This is Sirach chapter 1 and verse 5. For the word of the God Most High is the fountain of wisdom, and her ways are everlasting commandments, right? The word is the commandments, right? And the fear of the Lord is to keep the commandments, right? That's where you determine your wisdom and understanding. Right? It's Deuteronomy 4 and 6. Hope I'm right. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your what? Wisdom and your understanding, right? In the sight of the nations. We shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people, right? That's the basis of wisdom and understanding, right? Because one of the things, or one of the descriptions of understanding, is to stay away from the world, stay away from evil, right? because the world teaches you that you can eat certain stuff, right? Just like what I said earlier, that the foolishness of the world is, or the wisdom of the world is foolishness, right? Or it doesn't make sense. The world will teach you that you can eat pork, can eat unclean animals such as shrimp, crab, all of that stuff. When the commandment says that there are only certain animals that you can eat because some animals are not meant to be eaten, right? That's why the wisdom of the world is what? Foolishness, right? Therefore, why should you fear them, right? Because they're all, or excuse me, the wisdom of the world is idiot, right? Or foolishness. You are in good ground, you value stuff, and you what? This is one of my favorite verses. And unto man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. Remember, the world teaches you can eat certain things. The world teaches that we should worship on the first day when it's actually on the seventh day, right? The world ignores the feast days of the Lord of the world. Excuse me. The world ignores the feast days. The world ignores the feast days of the Lord, right? But they are celebrating pagan holidays, right? Which is what? Which is vain, right? That's in I believe Jeremiah 10. Let's start verse 2. Thus said the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs, excuse me, for the customs of the people are vain. What? Vain. What does vain mean? Excessive pride in their appearance and action, that is what? Useless, right? What is it that again in First Corinthians? I believe it's First Corinthians 3:19. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness. What? For the wisdom of this world is foolishness, right? They're worshiping idols, right? That doesn't magnify or edify oneself, right? Let's go back again. For the customs of the people are what? Are vain or useless, right? It's not edifying, right? Remember Christmas, they cut a tree out of the forest, right? But what does that tree do to us, right? Nothing, right? But they are what? Worshipping, because the wisdom of the world is what? Foolishness, right? Therefore, why should you fear the wise men of the world, right? When the wisdom of the book is in the Bible, right? Therefore, keep focusing on the word, right? And be rooted in it, that you may not fear the world, but fear only the Most High God, right? That's one of the primary things that you can only do, that you may stay rooted and grounded in this. Because in the latter times, knowledge will increase, but remember that knowledge of the word, or the word, makes more sense versus the wisdom of the world, right? That's why keep always grounded in this thing, and keep repetitively meditating on the word, right? That you may not get taken away by the different doctrines and fear of the world, right? But yeah, that's my daily meditation for today, and keep doing this, because that's how you maintain that water. You're gonna get watered every day with the word, that you may not get dry with your flesh, because the flesh is very it's heavy. It's going to attack you many times, because it's always against the spirit. That's why I keep meditating, and therefore repent and pray to the Most High, that you may endure it to the end, right? At the end of the day, all praise to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim, Mashiach, Yahweh Shai, or in the name of His name, Yahweh Shai, which the world calls Jesus Christ, right? That's my meditation for the day, and have a nice evening.